Okay.
It's time for another episode of the Cultural Hall, a special episode in that, I'm not home. I'm not in the home studio or the home studio .2000. Not to worry, everyone. I didn't move out. I didn't go crazy. I didn't lose one of my best friends, and now I'm going on a world tour. I'm in Denver, Colorado.
It's a good
Not
place to be.
technically not Denver, Colorado. Worth mentioning, this conference everyone was like, it's in Denver, and everyone's like, yeah, we love Denver. The breweries, microbrew,
Yeah.
all the things. And if you're familiar with Denver at all, you know that the Denver International Airport is sort of out and about by itself, and then you drive for forever and get to the actual town of Denver. In an equidistant or maybe same distant destination is where this hotel and convention center is. When I got in last night, I drove here from Salt Lake because it's a beautiful drive. P.S.
It is nice. Yes.
I did the beautiful part. I'm gonna do the ugly drive back, which is you go, through Laramie and so on. I did
Blech.
not do it that way. I came up through Vail, Glenwood
Oh,
Springs,
yeah.
and just absolutely gorgeous. Anyway,
Gorgeous.
came here in the dark, the dead of night, as it were. Woke up to in my hotel room and opened up the blinds and looked out and thinking, I know I'm not right in Denver. I'm not Denver downtown certainly, but I would probably be able to see Denver. Nope.
Nope.
It is a whole lot of nothing.
So what city are you actually in?
I think it's technically Denver.
Okay.
But
did you look out the window and you're like, Rocky Mountain High? Denver's full of crap.
yeah, I expected the Rocky Mountains to be a whole lot rockier. Yeah,
Exactly.
you can't see the mountains. Little hidden fact for you Denver
Yes.
folk. There's one way that you can look and go, yeah, okay. So the pioneers had it pretty easy until they got to the other side of where I'm at.
A little bit.
And then they had to get up and over. Yeah, I don't. Denver, maybe. I don't. It's.
Okay.
I'm staying at the Gaylord Convention Center.
Sounds fun.
Yeah,
Sounds
yeah.
fun.
They got a miniature golf course.
Then it's a rocking good time for
Yeah, yeah.
podcasters.
They've got a lazy river.
Hey, lazy rivers are kind of where it's at. You get a drink and you just sit in the tube and just go around and around and around.
I don't think you're allowed tubes. I think
Oh,
it's just a lazy river. As
no,
in,
you can just kind of go boneless and it'll carry you around the way it
yeah,
needs to.
yeah. I haven't done that. I've debated
Okay.
whether or not I'm going to subject anyone to the half naked me. So that's going on. And the podcast conference really kicks off in full force tomorrow. Today was just like hey, how's it going? You remember conferences? This is what we do kind of day.
Is this an invite only situation?
No. This is
Okay.
you pay money and then you're with a bunch of people that you're like, you and I are the same. Is that what this is?
Huh.
Am I
Interesting.
to infer that by your attendance that you and I are the same? That's what this conference is. I did do a thing as I waited to get my pass, because you have the
Right.
little scannable passes that so they know you're part of the conference, whatever. And there was a DJ. I
Oh,
asked him if he was the best DJ in Colorado, and he said, "Please stop talking to me. I'm playing music." And I was waiting in line, and I've got a problem in that my hips move to the beat,
sure.
and I can't turn it off.
I feel that. Yeah.
So there are two traveling videographers that, and I didn't know that this was a job, but I have to tell you, this is cool that this is what our world has come to. It's a husband and wife duo that they haven't been home since January. They every week go to various conferences, and they do filming and videos and promo videos for the next year of the things, and like
Wow.
recap videos of all the attendees. And I said, well, I know that it's not all like podcast centered. And they said, oh,
No.
no, medical things,
Yeah.
recruiting this and sales that, and multi-level hoop-de-doo and all the things. And so that is what the two of their job. So I'm dancing in the line, and lo and behold, video camera
Front and center.
right on me.
Yeah.
So I did what anyone in my position would do. and feigned embarrassment and then tripled down on what he was doing.
Absolutely.
And then later went up and asked them and said, hey, you know what? If you guys need, if there's a shot that you need that you just can't seem to get from this conference, from the attendees, you let me know and I'll do it. And the husband is like, really? And I said,
you're like, yeah,
yes, absolutely. Whatever the thing is, like if I need to point and be scared or, whatever the thing is that you need for that video, you let me know. I'm your guy. And they said, how will we find you? I said, that will not be an issue.
no, not a problem. Not a problem at all.
Yeah. So that is me.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that this is the first articles of news that has been recorded since the passing of former co-host Brother Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
And earlier this week we played his interview,
which was so good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed listening to it.
And fun to be able to share that with people who maybe didn't know Kyle that well. Also fun for me to go back and listen to, because he fully expected that that episode was going to be in articles of news and not that I was going to interview him. So kind of fun that we did that. And then, after that, we kind of shared a couple other recaps, his first health thing and then his second health thing. And then, obviously this articles of news as we post this. So, it was.
Go ahead. I was going to ask you, how are you doing?
I mean, what kind of vague question is that, Megan?
Okay, Richie.
You yourself on the Little Lessons podcast, do you always ask such vague and non-guiding questions?
Richie, have you I'm trying to be sensitive.
No, you don't have to. No one has literally ever been sensitive with me ever. So whatever that is, you can toss that out.
You're still a human who deserves sensitivity.
Or am I a dancer?
Yeah, well, there you go.
There you
go. Killers. Yep. Richie, how are you sleeping?
Sleeping
and are
good.
you eating?
I mean, as ever I was, ever since I started a new medication, I have been becoming less of a man, and that's better. Okay. But yeah, eating and sleeping fine.
Okay, because I know that with grief,
sure,
it's very important that you keep yourself well nourished.
Yeah.
And hydrated and fed. And like, that sounds really very trite, but no, it's actually like, it's a for real thing to make sure that you're taking care of yourself so that you can handle all of the emotional upheaval that comes.
Yeah, I'm not sure which, there's like the whatever steps of grief, right? 5,
yeah,
7?
there's like 7. I really believe there's like 27 of them.
Yeah.
Like it's like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back.
Yeah, Paula
2 steps forward, 1 step back. I feel like people say, oh, there's these steps of grief, and you go through all of these, and I've lost a lot of people close to me, and there's some days when I'm at like step 4 and some years when I'm back at step 2. You know?
I would say this about that. I'm really good about not thinking about it until my body forces me to think about it. So whatever step that is, I will say having the opportunity to attend the memorial service was real nice. DJ Rob, who I didn't know is a DJ, he happened to be there with his wife, Larissa. Annette was there. And so we were able to sit together, just Joni there and her husband, Hottie Haas, also there. We tried to sit on the back row, but then we ended up kind of being on the front row of the back row. So that was good.
Yeah.
The cultural hall got a shout out from one of the very first sentences. The guy who was sort of hosting, he said, if you haven't had an opportunity to go and listen to episode 545 of the Cultural Hall. That's Kyle's last episode where he talks about being the ultimate husband because, he's going to leave behind his Social Security and she gets the sympathy of being a widow and all of the things. The guy kind of hosting the memorial service mentioned that. And the thing is, I'm talking around about a lot of stuff. The thing really is super sad and a really great friend and not many like him, certainly. Occasionally I'll have something so off color that I think, man, you know what, Kyle would really appreciate this. So I've taken to saying it out loud by myself. So I've now become a crazy person. Thanks, Kyle. And I mean, uh, it was hard when I first saw that he had passed. I saw him only a couple weeks ago, and I mean, he wasn't great. Let's let's not sugarcoat it. But I certainly didn't think, hey, in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to be sitting at his memorial service. I got to sit and be with him, and we talked around. He asked how my wife was. He actually verbally ish asked how my
Wow.
wife was, which was very sweet. And then after he had just sort of sat there and I talked with him, for a good 30, 45 minutes, he sends me a Facebook message, which we shared on our Instagram, that said, sorry to talk your ear off. And that's just the kind of guy he was. And not very many people are like that. And when I got the word, the first thing I thought was, oh man, I can't hardly believe that. And then like I really tried to muster up a lot of sadness.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's the natural thing that you do, but I was just so happy for him, so sad for everyone else, but so happy for him that then I kind of felt bad that I felt so happy, because I really was like, I should probably feel sad. And then I was like, oh, but I'm so happy that he does not have to deal with all that garbage anymore. And if you happen to maybe be listening to this and it's your first episode, you don't even know what I'm talking about. He had ALS, and just a top athlete, and watching his body and his life kind of deteriorate. I was just like, done. Yeah. Get it ready for us on the other side. So he promised he's saving a seat for everyone as they cross over. Look for the loud, rambunctious back row. That's where Kyle will be. And, for all the things, will be forever missed.
Yeah. Well, and Richie, I think that two things can be true. You said you felt happy that he didn't have to deal with his body breaking down anymore and what that was going to entail. But you can also be extremely sad. Like I feel like those two emotions can exist at the same time.
Yeah.
And I know when my mom died, she died of a brain tumor, and it was so awful to see that she couldn't like talk to her grandchildren. She couldn't hold her grandchildren, and that was awful for her, and so it's like you're so conflicted, because I want this person here with me. I want this person to make me laugh and say all the things, but I don't want to see them suffer anymore. And it's hard as the person kind of left behind, because you're like, well, I don't know how to make sense of these feelings.
Right.
And it's hard. And how long did you know him?
Like 20 years, probably.
Wow.
Almost 20 years.
Wow.
I think the big lesson I learned, and he'd be grateful for it, is that I'm never going to let anyone get close to me ever again. So I feel like that's the win. Just not ever get to know anyone, get close to anyone, allow myself to be vulnerable. I think if I know him, I think that's the lesson that he would have me learn, and learned it pretty well. So good. We don't have to do that again.
Well, Richie, I know that I can speak for myself and other people that if you need anything, to reach out, because it's not, I mean, like we're all in our own heads dealing with our own stuff, however we choose to, but there's people around who care and who want the best, and it comes and goes. And so it might be in like 4 months, you're like, hey, Megan, Annette, Andrew, like, I don't know how to deal anymore.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
I
make
appreciate
sure that you're
that.
talking.
I don't think that I'm emotionally mature enough to actually process any of that, but I appreciate the heck out of the offer. I think I will probably, like most emotions that I do, stuff it down until it eventually just erupts and I end up in some sort of care center for the mentally enfeeble, or mentally feeble, I guess, not enfeeble.
Okay.
Feeble would be. So
well, we'll come and play imaginary cards with you, I guess.
Yes, thank you. That's the offer that I'm after. All the feelings, all the emotion. What is new with you? Anything exciting or fun?
Let's see. Kid number 5 is going off to school tomorrow.
Okay.
So I've got one more that I need to bounce from the shack. I recently painted 4 walls in my house, so that was exciting.
Okay.
I am the queen of like starting a house project and never finishing it. And this one I actually finished. I attribute that to the Adderall.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Very excited about that. Let's see what else is going on.
I have to ask you this about that, and maybe we can even use the picture of your two daughters, because I was particularly impressed and touched that you could not have two more different personalities portrayed in one picture. And I wonder if as a parent, I mean, you have 100 kids, so right, if you don't like one, maybe you'll like the next one.
Right.
But like, to have such different attitudes from each of your kids, are you like, well, could you be a little more,
a little more the same?
I don't know. Like, it just, and people, hopefully, the picture that I'm talking about, and or people can find the picture that's associated with this episode, because I really do want to make that the cover
let's do it
image for this episode. Is it just as like that? I look at that picture and I go, that is two different very strong personalities, and that seems exhausting, and you have four more beyond that.
Yes. And it's funny because they could not be more different, but they are best friends.
Really?
Those two. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And my oldest will always joke. She's like, I've got 3 friends, and one of them is my mom and one of them is my sister. She has more friends than that, but they are literally so different, and it keeps me on my toes very much so, because like different personalities, different academic achievements, different different hobbies, like
different dads, sure, all the things. No, that's not what you.
Well, and it's funny because my Richie, come on.
Sorry, I thought this was the episode we were. No, okay, my bad.
It's Truth Day, apparently. But the funny thing is that my oldest, she's almost 18, right? She's like 5'6". Okay, her sister, who's 16, is 5'10". And so it's even like their body types are different. It's just it's exhausting. And the funny thing is that my next 2 kids are boys, and they're 2 years apart, and they are completely different as well. And the other ones, I think it's a little too soon to tell.
Sure.
And they're a boy and a girl, so it's a little bit different. But our house is like constant chaos.
Yep.
But in a really beautiful way. You know, everybody has their place. Everybody has their personality. And it's interesting. We've been doing back to school priesthood blessings.
That's a cool tradition. I don't know how many people do that still. I don't know that like new families necessarily do it. That's the thing we did growing up, for sure.
Yep, exactly. And it's so interesting to hear the differences in the blessings that are given in regards to their personalities and their different achievements and their different hobbies, and the different pieces of instruction that they're given, because they are just such different kids. And you would think that all of these kids being raised in the same household by the same parents, yes, they are the same parents, that they would maybe be little Von Trapps,
Sure.
And they are so not. And that's the beauty of our family, I think, because we're just a hilarious, chaotic group.
Does your husband ever in the priesthood blessings? I've always wondered this, and I don't know that I ever caught it growing up, but I could see the temptation to do something like, and we bless you that you'll listen to your mom better and that you'll clean your room. Some of these things where it's like a little bit of like, I mean, we're blessing for the year and all of these things, but also
maybe I'll just
since
slide
we're here,
thing.
we'll just slide this thing in.
I was not this year, not so far, not this year. The difference. So I did something different this year that I've never done before. And I actually did a voice memo recording of each blessing, and I'm excited to go back and listen to them. But if I can share one story. So probably 4 years ago, 2019.
Yep.
My husband was giving our oldest daughter a blessing, and he said some things that were very powerful, that this would be a very hard year, that things would just be difficult for her. And then he actually gave me a blessing that year as well. And because it's like all the kids go back to school, everything's changing for me too.
Sure.
So he tries to remember me and give me a blessing as well. And he said in my blessing that same year that there would be times this year when our family would have no choice but to rely on my strength as a mother. And I was like,
great. Thanks a
Neat.
lot.
It's wonderful. And so, and that phrase just stuck in my mind like glue, and I was like, every single thing that would come up, I'd be like, is this the thing?
Yeah.
Is this the thing that I have to be strong for? And so then it would come and pass. And I'm like, well, that wasn't the thing. And then something else would happen. I'm like, is that the thing? No, nope, that wasn't the thing. And then something did happen that year. And I'm not going to get into details because it's my child's story, but it like rocked our family in an extreme way. And there still is like residual trauma from it. And all of this stuff. And I remember when we had this thing come up, I was like, oh, okay, this is the thing. And it all came down to just like how I was able to handle this particular situation. And I don't know, I think if you're not giving your children priesthood blessings before they go to school, please start, because, oh my gosh, is it an incredibly powerful spiritual experience. And then just to hear the love and care that our Heavenly Father has for these children is just, it's like, I mean, it's like to a lesser extent, like a patriarchal blessing, you just these amazing promises and blessings and instruction. And it's really, really good. Really good.
Yeah, it's interesting as you kind of say that through. I think of maybe individuals who don't have the priesthood in their home, and hopefully that their, ministering brothers would be able to do it. Or, what, if you don't know who those people are, you got extended family. But like, I think that as an elders quorum president or a bishop or someone within your ward, I can't imagine, a more like honorable thing that someone could ask of me, like to be like, hey, you know what, we don't have this in the home. Could you do this for us?
Right.
What an honor, and then also the privilege to be able to exercise the priesthood in that way. Anyway, okay, let's what do you say to some news? You want to do some news?
It. I've got some good stories.
Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll do actual articles of news. Here in the second half of articles of news, we do actual articles of news. Hit it, Peter. And away we are into the news. We've got a bunch. In fact, 72 pages of news. And I wish to start here. I'm not sure how closely you have followed this, but the church's response to all of the displacement and destruction from the Maui fires, Lahaina specifically. The church recently donated $1 million to the American Red Cross to help relief efforts following the deadly wildfires. Christopher Waddell, first counselor in the presiding bishopric, announced the donation Sunday to help the American Red Cross provide shelter to survivors, meals, bedding, hygiene kits, and other items, medical, mental health, and family reunification services. It's interesting. Elder Bragg, who is, I think he's in the Northwest General Authority 70, he went over there and was essentially boots on the ground, gave faith, hope, inspiration to the people, and then also sort of meandered through what the church has set up. And there's a video, you can find a link to it in the show notes, where they show what I believe to be essentially like the gym, the cultural hall, right, of the Lahaina, or somewhere over there ward. I'm not sure exactly. And you see the various like rooms that they have set up. They've divided it, dropped it with black almost like garbage can liner, but it's it's big lining thing. And these people are able to have their own privacy and their own rooms, and it's within this. And I think the governor of the state of Maui, I'm the governor of the state of Hawaii, and the mayor of the county, all these dignitaries have came and seen this setup and have remarked, one, how quickly they were able to do it, and two, how considerate is not the word that I'm looking for, but how like being able to give respect back to the people who have literally lost everything. To be able to do that. And so interesting to see sort of Elder Bragg's comments about it, the government officials saying, wow, how amazing this is. And then also too, if you haven't seen the pictures and the videos of the destruction, it's just absolutely just horrible scary, you
So
know,
sad. So sad.
hundreds of years old things,
Mhm.
people who are not able to get back to their homes, just crazy destruction. I have a really good friend, her home completely burned out.
Gone.
She was able, and her family able, to all get away.
Yeah.
Um, but they have nothing.
Wow. Wow.
Absolutely nothing. Imagine that. Hey, guys, we got to go. Okay. Hey, do we have anything? Nope, it's all
Nope.
gone. Every
It's
single
gone.
last piece of it gone. So
Yeah.
so that
You I've been thinking a lot about so there's the fire in Maui.
mhm,
There's now the hurricane in California.
mhm.
Canada's basically on fire.
Sure.
I've been following, I mentioned about my fishing trip that I went on in July.
Mhm,
And the last town you fly to before you go up to the lake, it's called Yellowknife.
mhm.
And they just evacuated every single citizen out of
Jeez.
Yellowknife because of wildfires. And like the lodge that we went to, they evacuated all of their guests and all of their employees and staff and everything. And it's just like, oh gosh, man, why is this world just like crumbling around us? And there's nothing we can do about it, And you've got people like in Hawaii where there's no warning. And then, people up in Canada who like they're driving hundreds of miles to evacuate, they're driving to whole other provinces, and it's just like, oh, it's so painful to see. And then I look at my own life and I'm like, well, I'm perfectly safe here.
Mm.
I need to evacuate. I go to my father-in-law's house 20 minutes away, and it's hard to like feel that lucky. I don't know if that doesn't make sense, but it's like, I don't know. It's hard to see so many people suffering and so many people suffering for things that they have no control over.
Yeah, yeah. And knowing, the Utah, Salt Lake Valley, has always been talked about an earthquake. And,
Right.
I'm no sort of like doomsday or something like that, but something like that will come and every one of us will go, oh crap, I sure wish we would have been a little
Warned.
bit better prepared, or,
Exactly.
being able to care for it. Other things worth sort of mentioning around this, the Maui story, is that 80 members of the Lahaina First Ward lost their homes,
Mm.
and 5 individuals lost their life, 4 from one family and 1
Oh,
from another. As a complete sort of aside, I think it's interesting to note that there is a huge push now to continue to make that part of the island um, able to be affordable by the people who lived there until this fire.
yeah.
Apparently, there is some thought that now investors and large corporations, because it's just a prime spot of Maui, are
Mhm.
going to try and come in and be able to purchase up land because people don't have anything, and maybe they didn't have insurance, or insurance won't cover everything that they did. And it could
Yeah.
be very well that this very historic part of Maui is now completely lost,
Oh,
because of what happened. So crummy, terrible.
that's heartbreaking.
Hopefully, a future episode of the Cultural Hall will be being able to visit with some folks whom were displaced by
Mhm.
the fires, and to know what the church is doing there, and also how we can be able to help. What story have you, Megan the Mitch?
Well, oh yeah, we never did introduce me, did we?
Oh, everybody, it's Megan the Mitch Mitchell.
It's me.
They
It's
know.
me.
They
Hi.
know.
They know my voice by now. Um, so we just recently had this big YSA conference here in Utah. Um, but there was another one that happened this year over
Okay.
in let's see, the Nordic countries.
Okay.
Um, so this is from the Church News. Nordic YSA Conference cultivates spiritual community through devotionals and parties. So in the Nordic countries, so
Mhm.
this includes Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Iceland, and Norway.
So it's a gathering of blonde people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But they have been holding, it's called the Festinord,
Okay.
Annette Lyon. Let me know if I said that wrong.
You didn't say it right,
Okay.
I'm sure.
Most likely. But they've been actually doing this for like 49 years
Okay.
with the church. And so this year's had 600 Latter-day Saints from all of these countries, and then other countries as well, including Germany, Australia, and the United States. So once all of the Nordic countries and the Baltic states get registered. Any open spots are open to YSAs from anywhere.
That's cool.
In the world. And one of the organizers, actually, her son got to attend for the first time because he just turned 18.
Okay.
But she went to this YSA conference 30 years ago and met her husband there.
That's where I met your father.
Exactly. But it's so funny that I look at this and I'm like, so we just had this first big one in the States, but the Nordic countries have been doing this for decades. They've got it down.
Well, and to be clear, I think this is just the first one that they've ever done in Utah, because
that's fair.
Out in California, there's that beach party that they do, and then there's
Duck Beach?
Duck Beach. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then there's one in the East Coast that they do that is equally as large too. But I love that how Utah centric some members of the church are. We're like, guys, look at this great idea, and everyone's like, guys.
And people in Europe are like, yeah, we've been doing this for like 50 years. We've got it down. But they do temple trips. They start every day with a devotional and end each day with a big party. They talked about a young single adult from Iceland who had just been baptized like 4 months prior to this event. This was held in July. He had no idea that there was a temple in Denmark where they had the conference. It was in Copenhagen. And so then he didn't know if he was going to be able to go to the temple because he didn't know that that was even an option for him. And so the temple president made arrangements so that this young man could actually do baptisms with the group that was there. There was a young girl actually from Lehigh who ended this one and just said it was awesome. One comment said, there's a big push all over the world to strengthen the rising generation. And this is one of the places where they're strengthened, that spiritual community that they can feel at a place like this, and also having fun. So yeah, this is just a fun little YSA conference. I wonder if you can find somebody who has attended Festen Nord.
Well, I have to say this about that. The Nordic people have a better name. I think here they called it like YSA meeting or something so generically bland, but Festen Nord sounds pretty cool.
Exactly.
I had intended to start the episode off reading this, but didn't, but want to make sure that I do it so that it does not get forgotten and pushed to another week's episode. There was a review that was left on Apple Podcasts about this here, the Cultural Hall show.
Podcast form.
The title would be a 5-star review, but it might go to Richie's head. So the way the Apple Podcast allows you to do is headline your review, and then you can give the body of it. The person is Idaho Potato Farmer. Said, somewhat of a latecomer to the back row. At first was hard to really get into it, but now I can't get enough at times. 98% of the shows are great and really thought-provoking. The other 2% are ones I'll mark as played and move on. Overall, great show, and thanks to the crew for making it happen as often as they do. I would love to know, because I'm sure that this is the case for everyone, though I appreciate this person so very boldly saying, yeah, I don't like a couple and I just mark it. What the ones are that, and I'm not asking you, but if you want to email us, contact@theculturalhall.com, the episodes that you're like, yeah, not it. That was not it. Because if it's a collective not it, maybe I won't do them anymore.
Yeah. Or if it's anytime Megan the Mitch is on, just don't tell him.
Yeah. Just keep that to yourself. Because I want
to keep it to yourself.
No, I think people like news for the most part. I think it's the interviews. And I know certainly I get a little bit of a response on some where I'm like, okay, well, yeah, no, you don't have to like that. You can just go ahead and move along. Who knows? Yeah. Who knows about that? Okay, so let's go here. Kenneth Rooks. We talked about him a couple weeks ago. He tripped, fell, and then ended up winning the steeplechase race that was a qualifier for a thing. Well, now he's one step further in the thing. He a BYU standout. It was the only American to qualify for the final race in Budapest. He continued to advance to now the finals of the 3,000 meter steeplechase at the World Track and Field Championships. He qualified by finishing the second world's preliminary with the reigning world and Olympic champion Soufiane El Bakali of Morocco. Both of them had a time of 8 minutes, 23 seconds, and 66 hundredths of a second. Rooks is one of 15 runners who advanced to the final, which will be Wednesday, August 23rd, as we record this. He says, I felt like I was in control. I feel like I had more left in me in an interview after the race, to which I would say, hey, Kenneth, if you feel like there's some left in you, run harder, pal.
Well, it's because you need to save it for the final race. I learned this when my kids were swimming, that like you don't want to finish first, because then when you go into your finals, you don't have any more gas in the tank.
Okay.
So hopefully he's saving it so that in the finals he can push through. And also, isn't he the only American that qualified?
Is. Yes.
Pretty sweet. Pretty sweet.
Well, good job, brother Rooks, elder Rooks. We wish you the best of luck as you continue to race, and let's set a new world record, huh?
Let's do it.
And then
We're all behind you.
We can do that thing that we do where we go, that's one of ours, or you know why he came in first, don't you?
He didn't run on Sundays.
The word of wisdom.
He went to the temple beforehand.
Yeah. He had an infinity ring on his finger. What else have you?
Let's see. So this is I mentioned the church specifically, but it is about somebody who I am almost 90, like 100% positive is a member of the church.
100% positive.
100%.
Perfect.
It's a real number. So a young man, Easton Oliverson, he was playing last year in the Little League World Series. Okay. He was the one who fell off the bunk bed, ended up fracturing his skull.
He's a member of the church.
That's okay. Thank you. Yes, yeah. I thought I remember that. It's just, this is a People magazine article, and they're not going to mention it unless it's necessary. But the Little League baseball has removed all bunk beds from their World Series accommodations because as a result of this injury that this young man suffered. And the family says that like he's going to have issues for the rest of his life, unfortunately, because of what happened. And they ended up suing the Little League, the Little League governing body, as well as the manufacturer of the bunk beds, because it didn't have a guardrail on it or anything like that.
Yeah, geez.
But yeah, so something good came from it. I mean, terrible tragedy, and luckily he's still with us, but will have lasting effects. But so that's just something good that came from a crummy situation, and I'll file that under Saints That Sport with Megan the Minch.
Very good. I was wondering how you were going to cram that in. There you go.
I did it.
Saints That Sport with Megan the Mitch. Crack of the bat with the ball.
Yeah, can you work on that audio, please?
Okay, yes, I'll work on it. I've been busy at funerals, but I guess I can focus on you.
Funerals, podcast conferences. I get it, Richie, but I
can focus on you, I suppose.
Move me to the top of the queue, please.
This is interesting because I've seen this article in multiple venues, and none of them actually tell you the answer to what the headline poses as a question. The Chosen season 4. I've seen multiple articles about like, when is it going to be released? The release date for season 4, and every single article is like, we don't know, but probably, January, February 2024. So, we're 4, 5, 6 months off of it being released. They're probably going to release it in the movie theaters again, at least a small portion like they did the last time, which is great. Good for them. I just don't understand why we do articles that doesn't have the actual like information that the headline says, even if it's wrong.
Right.
It's interesting to me that they don't posit here's when this thing could be. Other sort of quick news, Latter-day Saints mark a 100-year anniversary of the first Hispanic congregation in the Salt Lake Valley. This past Friday, more than 500 people gathered in Salt Lake to mark the anniversary. There was a devotional and cultural event at the Institute of Religion at the University of Utah. Elder Hugo E. Martinez. My name is Hugo Martinez of the Utah Area Presidency. He was the keynote speaker. He shared a brief history of the Salt Lake Mexican branch, and it just looks awesome and colorful and an amazing, party. And it's cool to think that ward, that branch has been around for 100 years. When you think about that kind of diversity, you don't certainly think about Salt Lake, but amazing to know that, for 100 years now, the Saints of Hispanic origin have had the opportunity to be able to have their own specific. And the article goes on to talk about how, especially in those sort of cultural traditions, that it's important to be able to worship with people who observe the same cultural traditions. And I think that's significant to note. So happy 100.
Well, and it probably set up a standard for, we have now in Salt Lake, we have Tongan branches, we have Portuguese branches. I think we even have like Mandarin branches, maybe.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really good standard that we want members of the church to still feel connected to their cultures. And it's not, you come to Utah and now you're one of us, but we want you to preserve your heritage as well. Like, don't feel like you have to leave it behind.
Yeah, but it also is sort of interesting because aren't we the people who say attend where you geographically live? And so I have always kind of wondered how we're like, well, come and, kind of go there, but also be that. And
I would guess that it probably has more to do with language than culture.
Sure.
But culture is a huge element of it,
sure.
And it's, but what I would love to see is that maybe a ward partners with a branch, and then that branch helps do an activity showcasing the diversity, showcasing their culture. I've heard of like stakes that will have activities that the Hispanic branch or the Spanish branch will kind of incorporate their traditions in, and I think that would be really cool.
Sure. I have long mused that I wish that there were like artistically driven wards, like similar to how we have, Hispanic culture, you have all sorts of artists, right? So singers, musicians, physical artists, actors and all that we all have a congregation. Or I have long mused that we should have political division ward where you have all of the liberals in one particular ward. But what I've decided is if we all got together in one place, we'd be translated. So we have to, I'm teasing everyone. Come on.
Well, I could just imagine the artistic branch, and then Richie shows up in his clown costume.
Sure. At church.
Clown school.
Sure.
At church.
Sure. Of course.
And it's no longer relegated to just like piano and string instruments. You've got all of the instruments.
You can play brass now. Remember in the handbook of instructions,
right.
they changed that up.
This branch will probably have percussion.
Yeah. I'm there for it. Whatever
Awesome.
it takes.
Awesome.
What have you? Did you do that story? Okay. I can't remember where.
No, that was
what's
that
going
was
on?
you.
Okay.
Where's Buttercup? Another callback.
Thank you.
Princess Bride. Okay, so we followed this story a little bit. I haven't ever presented anything about this, but I know it's been covered, and it's the murder of Jared Bridegan, the Microsoft executive who was murdered in front of his 2-year-old daughter. His ex-wife has now been indicted on the murder charge, along with her new husband and a former tenant who lived in a property that they had. So she's been formally indicted, and she's going to be extradited to Florida, and they are going to seek the death penalty. That's what the state attorney said. So yeah, super, super sad, but I hope that this will help bring even the tiniest bit of closure to that family. I know that there's other things that aren't mentioned in this particular article, but how so Jared Bridegan, his second wife, who they were the ones who had the 2-year-old that he had in the car when he was shot. She's been constantly trying to even visit his children from this previous marriage and has never been able to. There's just been such a understandable, chasm in this family, but I hope that it starts to bring even a little bit of closure to them, because how awful.
Yeah.
How awful. And I'm glad that they're getting to the bottom of it to find out exactly what happened and who did what and all of that. So
yeah, and the orchestration of him being shot the way that he was, and the timing and the coordination and the the hiring and all of the things, and just great. Thanks for doing that story.
Anytime.
I'm glad you got glad you got to comment on that.
Do you want me to talk about milkshakes next?
No.
I can talk about milkshakes. Okay.
No, I've got a story I want you to you want to listen to.
I'm ready.
I'm gonna channel my inner Tom Holmoe, who, if you don't know who that is, he's the he's the head sports guy at
He's
the
the
Brigham
athletic
Young
director
University.
at BYU.
Athletic director. I couldn't think of it. I was like, sports information officer is not it. Yeah,
That
he's
would
the
be a
athletic director.
sweet title to have. That would be a
Um,
sweet title.
and I can't remember the other guy's name, but it's Holmo and the other guy that is like his assistant or something like that. They sound like the buffoonery cops in a cop show. It's Holmo and Decker or whatever the guy's name is. I wish I could remember. But the two last names just made me chuckle. And especially when I worked at BYU and had to occasionally meet them, I would be like, I can't keep this in. So I just snicker to myself and then tell someone, doesn't that name sound like? Anyway, we digress. They
Yes, we
have
do.
asked, that is the BYU football program. And I imagine this extends to anyone doing sports from the Brigham Young University to no longer call what our young men and young women do mission trips when they talk about it in sporting things. So mission trips most commonly refer to for evangelical or Catholic short-term missions that may last days to a year. The missions that elders and sisters serve are, as we know, anywhere from 18 to 24 months, and they would ask that they get the respect and the difference paid to them. So they request, and they are very specific in this, as this went out to the different media outlets, and because they're now in the Big 12, they can do so. They can say, hey, outlets, just so you know, we'd love it if you would refer to it this way. They ask that they use terms such as serving a mission, a full-time mission, a 2-year mission, missionary service, a Latter-day Saint mission, and or a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We do not wish for them to be referred to as mission trips, Mormon missions, or LDS missions. Specifically, they said if you said a Mormon LDS mission, that's 2 wins for Satan, and then Satan.
They did not say that.
No, they didn't. The news release was given as an informative guide to missionary service, explaining what it is, et cetera, et cetera. Interesting. 64 players on BYU's current football roster served missions. They served in 29 different countries, and they speak 15 different languages. So significant for all those guys and their mission trips that they'll go. Teasing.
Check. Well, I'm wondering how many news outlets are gonna follow it. That would be a very interesting study for somebody to do. Not me.
Yeah. I mean, I think not you. Please, not you. You've got other things.
I do.
I think it's a thing that I think some will get it,
mm-hmm.
and some will pay attention to it, and just as the church made the request to say, don't call us Mormon or LDS. Some people will just disregard it because they're like, listen, I don't have the time and or the energy to do the thing that you've asked.
Yeah.
Does that lead you handily into some story about milkshakes?
Well, no, but how about I go to Missionaries? Does that work?
I'll take that.
I'll go to Missionaries. So this actually just came out today. The Church of Jesus Christ Missionary Handbook gets an update. So they just updated a few things about standards of behavior. One thing that stuck out to me, communication with those who are not immediate family should happen only on preparation day. And when missionaries communicate with friends, they should do so only via email or letter and not phone or video chat.
Sure.
So that was one. I think that now that they have more access to social media and stuff, it's a lot easier. I may know this from experience because I have teenagers, but a little bit easier to get into communication with friends and stuff, and so I'm glad that they, boom, this isn't, you're not DMing on Instagram,
sure.
That's not going to happen. It said also, strive to be persons of goodwill toward all, rejecting prejudice of any kind. This includes prejudice based on race, ethnicity, nationality, tribe, gender, age, disability, socioeconomic status, religious belief or non-belief, and sexual orientation. So another good rule to have in place.
They saw that TikTok video where the people were prejudiced because what was it, a rainbow? I can't remember now, but it was like either the doormat was like pride, or there was there was a rainbow flag, and the missionaries you see in the ring video that they go up to the porch, they very noticeably see the thing, and then they turn around.
Yeah, yeah. Let's not do that.
Yeah,
Let's not do that. You know. The other thing that was updated is that missionary companionships should always have an adult of their own gender present when meeting with a single person of the opposite gender. Also, physical contact with the opposite gender and children should be limited to a handshake.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and
A+
I wish
on all of that.
And I wish that, I mean, that I think, I don't know that that's that new. We were very, very cautiously taught that because kids always want to climb on the missionaries' laps.
Yes.
They
I was
always,
that kid who
you
was
know,
constantly jumping on the missionaries.
yeah. And so we were always like, nope, no, thank you. And I think the
Yeah.
rule used to be, it's interesting that they say an adult of the same sex if they're teaching someone from the opposite sex. Because I think before it was just like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Hand it off to somebody else to be able to teach. So interesting that they sort of
Well,
opened it up to that.
I wonder, because I don't know that it actually says, it says in a meeting with a single
Interesting.
person of the opposite gender. So maybe they're talking like interviews.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
And yeah, just a couple of other points of clarification I won't get into, but there you go.
All right.
That's my connection to the mission trips that all of the young people are going on.
Boo, funny.
I'm gonna get in trouble.
Nah, you're not. No, you're not gonna get. Interesting though. That I saw that and I just thought it was an old story about the Preach My Gospel getting a second version, so I didn't even look at it. But you looked at it and said, no, it's the rule book.
That's what I do between sets at the gym.
Here you go.
During my rest time. I find articles for articles of news.
Perfect. You can go to casting.churchofjesuschrist.org if you would like to help with the new church hymn book. You ask what? They are looking for singers of all ages needed for the audio version of the new hymn book. It's going to be a central component for incorporating the new music of the church. Applications due September 10th, 2023. This paid project will produce 2 final resources for members of the church. There will be melody-only recordings. Solo voices will help members of the church learn the melodies of the hymn through accurate and appealing recordings, and 4-part recordings. Vocal quartets will provide sing-along recordings for families and small church units, as well as support learning the written harmony lines. Applicants must be members of the church. The project requires soloists who can sing accurately and expressively and who sing with a fairly moderate vocal style. Voices from a range of cultural backgrounds, including racial and accent diversity, are encouraged to apply. The scope of the entire project will span multiple years. Singers will be contracted on a period basis. Recording dates will span up to several months. It will take place in Salt Lake, the recordings will. So they must be able to work as locals. So you got to move here maybe if you're an out-of-towner. Singers will be paid according to local industry standards. Just go to casting.churchofjesuschrist.org, look for the apply button and apply there. All the instructions about how you might apply are available.
Awesome.
What have
we're getting
you
closer to a new hymn book? Okay. So at the recent YSA conference, we need a better name. Festenrod. So not Festenrod. I can't think that fast. Something better.
Festenrod.
Former Congressman Mia Love she was one of the speakers, and she shares how her cancer diagnosis and miracles of science and faith were sorry, I worded that really poorly. But I didn't know. Did you know that she had been diagnosed with cancer?
Yeah, previous guest of the Cultural Hall. You'll find that link in the show notes as well. You can hear her whole episode. Congresswoman from the 4th district, I want to say.
Yeah. Yep. Out of Saratoga Springs.
Yeah, was the mayor at one point and then became congresswoman, congressperson.
And she was like glass ceilings breaking because she was the first female Black Republican, I think, elected to Congress. But I had no idea that she had been diagnosed with brain cancer.
Oh, I didn't know that either. Yeah.
Yeah. This was actually the first time that she spoke about it.
Okay.
Nobody knew, but she said that about a year and a half ago, she went on vacation with her family. As soon as they landed, she felt a headache come on. When they went to the beach, the reflection of the sun on the water made the headache worse. So bad that her husband took her to the hospital. They did x-rays and the doctor looked at them and said, "Was that there before?" and he was talking about a tumor in her brain.
Mm.
And they rushed home to Utah. She had surgery where they removed 95% of the tumor. She ended up in some experimental trials over on the East Coast using immunotherapy. And she was given 10 to 15 months to live.
Wow.
And she has surpassed that. She was originally hoping that it was a benign tumor, and it was definitely not benign. So she's been through chemotherapy and radiation. She says, I would believe the diagnosis, but I would not believe the prognosis. I had babies and I could not leave my husband. My mother had died from a brain tumor. Why would God do this to me? Where are the miracles? She asked. And then she talks about how she was with her friend and she was talking about the lack of miracles happening. And her friend said, well, have you asked? Have you asked specifically for miracles in your life? And she said, at that moment, I decided to ask for miracles and then do everything that I could to find those miracles. I chose to believe promises made to me and to act on faith. So yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, my mom died of a brain tumor. So these stories always kind of hit a little bit close to home. But she ended up at the 15-month mark where she should have been no longer with us. She was eating gelato in Italy with her family. Best way to celebrate. And she said she's looking forward to being a grandparent soon, any day now. And she said everything is perfect until it isn't, and then it gets even better. So prayers for Mia Love, hope for continued health and healing, because brain cancer is terrible. The worst. It literally is the worst.
I'm trying to find a great article to take us out on something that we can say, oh yes, we love that was the last story that was shared.
I still have milkshakes. So
I'm gonna let you take the milkshakes, and then I'm gonna do something at the end. Something real great. Go ahead and tell me about milkshakes.
Something better than milkshakes.
Yeah, I'm gonna one up your milkshake story.
Please do. So Utah's kind of famous for our soda shops, but we are also super famous for our gigantic thick milkshakes.
Oh yeah.
You're a Utah native, so I assume you've been to Iceberg.
Sure. Over the top.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been getting the grasshopper since I was about 4 years old, and it's amazing. And this article goes into why are Utah milkshakes different from the rest of the countries? The questions that need to be asked, Richie. Why are they different? It's kind of like why are scones different in Utah? And it's just because we're weirdos.
Okay.
But sorry, I'm rambling.
No. I'm trying to figure out. I didn't realize that ours were different from other places.
Neither did I. But a Utah resident, Cherry Ause, I'm going to go with Ause. They are thick enough to eat with a spoon for the first little while, but then they become sippable. So you should be able to drink them with a straw. Apparently, milkshakes in general are supposed to be thin enough that you can drink them through a straw and not have to use a spoon. I don't know where people are getting this data, but I've always eaten a milkshake with a spoon in Oregon, in Utah, wherever. But it talks about Iceberg and how they have their Shake of the Month club. And they actually started with thinner milkshakes. But then they started making them thicker upon request. And that just kind of became their thing. The big secret, they use more milk, more ice cream, less milk. Sure. That's it. That's the end of the story.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, we've got them at Iceberg, the Dairy King out in Heber. That's one of our favorites.
I mean, you go to Bear Lake, all those up at the Bear Lake Raspberry Days, they're, they're thick, spooning them out. I want one so bad right now. I can't even handle it.
Maybe for our next cultural hall get together, we should just go to Iceberg and get giant milkshakes.
What something that you mentioned that I need to look more into, the Shake of the Month,
the Shake of the Month club. I had no idea that was a thing, but now I want in.
Like, do you buy in a year and you just go sometime in the month? I need to know more details about this.
I don't know. When you find out, will you link it? Because I desperately need to know this.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'm not going to find it out.
I will commit to that very thing. I don't know. Where do I want to end? I was hoping that I'll tell you what. So I've got this big collection of news, and we'll probably do another articles of news pretty quick here. That articles of news is going to be so heavy. I'm sorry, everyone. There is so many just horrific stories, and maybe we will make a temple ticker at the end of it to give some sort of lightness to it. Although even with the temple ticker, there's still all of the controversy with the Cody, Wyoming temple.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go here. The church just this last week announced that Elder Alexander Dushku is the newest general authority 70. So here's what you're wondering immediately when you hear that name. Relative of Eliza Dushku?
Thank you. That was exactly where I went. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Is he?
Though the article not definitive, the Dushkus, as in Eliza Dushku, a Mormon heritage. So I have to think I want to get Elijah Dushku and Alexander Dushku in the same room and be able to have them both turn on their apps and find out the relation. Unless
watch, he's like her cousin.
Yeah, something very, very close.
Very close.
So a few interesting facts about Elder Dushku. Born in Fairfield, California, he's about to turn 57. So young, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
He served a full-time mission in the Portugal Lisbon mission. He and his wife have been married for 35 years, and they have 8 kids. Take that.
Wow, that's more than me.
Yeah. He's a BYU graduate and an attorney. He's worked for Curtin and McConkie for about 27 years. That is the law firm that does work for the church. And he has served in the church both as a counselor and a bishopric, and as a bishop, an elders quorum president, a high counselor, and a stake president. And he will be sustained in October. So 2 thoughts come to my mind. Why did they call him now? If he's going to be sustained in October, my mind goes, okay, we're releasing somebody. Somebody did a bad thing and we needed someone else to fill in, or special assignment for Elder Dushku. You call him up. He's opening China, the mission work in China, Elder Dushku. That's my one thought. And then I have this kind of brain, and I think that you will relate.
Most likely.
But I don't know that, like, once I lock into something, I can't
it's ADHD hyperfocus.
Yeah. Where as soon as they announced it, my mind immediately went to the Beach Boys song about Alexander Dushku.
Oh, I'm lost.
I haven't been able to let it go.
Okay.
The actual song is Little Deuce Coop.
Oh,
but the way that my brain has gone, Alexander Dushku, you don't know what Alexander Dushku, you don't know what I like.
Literally, Richie, only you.
Well, honestly. I'm not bragging, boy, so don't put me down, right? That's the way we end an episode of the Cultural Hall. Hope that this episode has nourished and strengthened your body.
That if you're not healthy enough to listen this week, you'll be able to listen next week.
And that when the time comes, you will be able to travel home in safety. In the meantime, we'll be saving a seat for you
on the back row of the
Cultural
Hall.